Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Paddock Podcast. Joining me is Mr. Ronaldo Brown.
You had a little bit of momentary pause there.
I was going to say, right, do you know what it is, right? I was going to say joining me are two titans of the Manchester United fan base, but that's not strictly true because we've got a titan of the Manchester United fan base in Mr. Ronaldo Brown. Yeah?
Okay. You're asking me to agree with him a titan or not?
Yeah, of course you are, man.
I don't know. I feel like I'll cringe if I say that.
And also,
I'll let you say it.
A titan of the journalism world, Mr. Mark Critchley. How are we?
Good.
Well, I say a titan. Been a bit lazy recently, Mark, but we don't need to get into all that.
Look,
what? That is my...
No, it's fair. I was half expecting this coming in.
we love having Mark on the show. Class writer. We go and check him out on the Athletic. There's a link in the description. And we're all like, yeah, let's see what Mark's been writing about recently. And we're like...
It's the work behind the scenes that you don't see.
Productive as usual. Do you know what I mean? Like, usually it's every day there's something else from Mark. And
Mark,
there's been a little,
I'm on your
little
side.
gap.
What?
I'm not just saying that because it comes on, but I'm on your side. Only writing stuff if there's something
to chat about. And you don't see the work that goes on behind the scenes to put all this stuff together.
I have no doubt, because it's not like you just writing any old nonsense in the Athletic, like 300 words on what won't happen. It's always a deep dive. It's always like 1,000 words, 2,000 words on this. So I get it.
And I'm diving right now. I'm diving deep.
I'm sure the next...
I'm actually a qualified scuba diver. You know that, by the way. Are you actually as well? I am actually.
Really?
Paddy trained. Yeah.
We couldn't be any more different.
We've been finding out a little bit about Mark off camera. So you was a teacher for a bit, is that right?
For a bit.
And then you a scuba diver as well?
In my spare time.
In your spare time?
Yeah. But I've not actually done it in like 15 years or something like that. I don't know if there's a time limit or an expiry on my license.
15 years?
Yeah. I was diving in...
Why is that so amazing to you?
Because Mark looks like quite a young lad, so I don't know.
34.
34. Oh, so you've not done it since you were 19?
Since I was even longer, 16.
16.
Scuba
that is quick
really? So what got you into that?
It was Duke of Edinburgh.
Duke of Edinburgh.
To be fair, I don't think scuba diving is something that you just do.
No.
That's what I mean. It's not like football or table tennis.
You ever been Blackburn Waves? Big swimming pool in Blackburn? No.
No, I haven't. Sorry.
Okay.
I feel like I've let everyone down there. Do you know where when I was a kid, it was Gorton Sub was the big swimming pool everyone used to go to, like a water park inside a thing, but it's shut down now. And then obviously we had Partington. No, there wasn't any. There weren't swimming baths in Partington. I think I had to go to Urmston or Stretford for swimming.
I love when you do that, you know.
Yeah, what? Look at you like
you're the answer.
Ronnie, where was I swimming in 1991? Tell me.
I was probably actually swimming, just not in like form.
We are going to be getting into some Manchester United news. It is international break, and it's one of them we were chatting before. And we don't just want to go, what's going on? We're going to sign anyone. So we've been looking at sort of the latest stories that are doing the rounds. The sort of continuous theme at Manchester United. Even today, we've had a little bit of it in a lot of outlets, and it seems to be, a non-stop narrative. Is this idea that United have to sell players to buy?
Yeah.
This idea that we are skin. I mean, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, if you want to call him that, did his media rounds the other week. He spoke to Dan Rowe and he spoke to Gary Neville. He was talking about how United's skin and the dire straits we're in financially. Then we had the announcement of the £2 billion stadium, which kind of seemed a bit of a contradiction. But we keep hearing, don't we, that United, if we are going to go big, or not even go big, just buy some players in the transfer window in summer, we are going to have to sell some.
Yeah. I mean, that's been the case. It was really the case sort of last summer as well. We were hearing these noises going into the summer. The difference then was that United still had a lot of room on what they call the credit facility, the revolving credit facility. It's essentially like a credit card.
Yeah.
And you can say, we'll borrow £200 million and we'll spend that. And that's essentially what they did last summer. They haven't paid any of that £200 million back yet. They bought those players. You heard Jim Ratcliffe say the other week as well that if we buy nobody this summer, we're still going to pay out £89 million on players that are already at the club. And so when you get into that situation, you've got no room left on your credit card. If you still owe money on all these players who are already in the door, the only option that you've really got to generate that cash is to sell players. And so you are back in this situation. I think, like I said, we were expecting it last summer, but they had some financial stuff that they could move around and do differently. Now, those limits have kind of been reached, and you have to turn to a bit of a fire sale and selling off players in order to generate that cash.
Do you not feel like last summer was, for United's, in a United way anyway, because United's not been the greatest when it's come to selling players or getting rid of quote-unquote deadwood or players that are surplus to requirements. Last summer did feel like a little bit of a step in a better direction in terms of selling. because obviously we sold Mason Greenwood, McTominay were the main two, weren't they?
Yeah,
main two. Quite a few players that we
Wan-Bissaka was a fairly decent one. Those three were ones where they generate fees that, you know, will move the needle in terms of players that you want to bring into the club, you know. The difficulty, I think, then, is if you looked at all three of those, they still weren't for real big money, or really what? Maybe you think you could have got a bit more out of the market value for those players. I think McTominay, certainly. I know his contract situation, you know, it was coming to an end this season, but I think they still had an option on that as well. 30 million. You see how well he's playing for Napoli right now. I think United could have done a bit better on that still, if anything.
Even Wan-Bissaka was cheap, weren't he?
Wan-Bissaka was cheap as well. I think his contract was maybe this season, at the end of this season, so that maybe affected it as well. And again, that sort of forces you to sell those players anyway, because otherwise, unless you're going to do new deals for them, you're going to lose them on a free the season after. So it's a difficult position to be in, and I understand that. I do think United could have squeezed them maybe a little bit more out of that, and even then, it was the best summer that they've had since, I don't know, well, in a long... I think it was actually, I remember looking at it, it was the best summer that United had in terms of selling players since Ronaldo, since the world record.
That says a lot.
Yeah, it did feel like a step in that direction. I'm sorry to cut your, but...
No, go on.
I don't know, United very rarely have a lot of leverage when it comes to players that they are trying to sell. It does seem like you're talking about us trying to squeeze a few extra pounds or a few extra millions in the football transfer world, but just feels like United can never really get to do that, because the players that we're selling, it feels like clubs know we're trying to get rid of. Yeah. Clubs know that we have an element of desperation about it. It just feels like we can't really get max value. I think Dan James was probably one of the only ones, isn't it?
That is the other one that came to mind, because I remember having a chat with somebody about this phenomenon, why United don't sell right, and he was like, somebody who worked at the club and said, yeah, look, when I was there, the best player that we sold, the most we got was Dan James, and I was like, how much even was that? Was it like 15, 20 mil or something to leave?
I think it was
40 million.
No, it was. I think it was 20 odd, 27 or something.
Something like that. It was.
We spent like 12 on him, so we made like 16 million profit on him. The trouble was, or is, whatever you want to look at, with some of the players you mentioned, like with Greenwood, obviously there was issues there. Yeah, why we wanted him out the door, basically. If Mason Greenwood hadn't have had those issues, if we can call it that, he would have gone for twice as much, but he did, so he did.
And there's like a sell on that, and you could see United making more money on that in the future.
Yeah, there's talking that if he goes from Marseille to another club now, United might end up with another bit of a windfall. With Scott McTominay, it felt very much like we wanted Ugarte won it, and we had to sell McTominay to buy Ugarte. Again, it's like you were saying, that hint of desperation, like, well, United need to do this deal, so Napoli probably like, well, if you want to do it, and you can do it on our terms almost. And because it was profit, because it's a homegrown player, it feels like United were like, all right then. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have to play hardball here, because this will enable us to buy Ugarte. I mean, in an ideal world, I think every time I've actually wanted to keep McTominay, you probably would have.
He came out and said it. Yeah. Like, there was a press conference that day, wasn't it? Because it was deadline day, and he said, look, if it was my decision, he'd stay here, but the regulations are what the regulations are. The club's in this position, and we need to get rid of him. So yeah, there's that factor as well. I look at him play now, and I just think, wouldn't he be good in this Amarin team as well? Like, it's one of those number 10s just coming into the box, scoring, like, come on.
Yeah, true.
I don't know. Ronnie has a very up and down relationship with Scott. Ronnie's got to be in his body, right? Because Scott McTominay, you saw his time, his goals, just after Ronnie had tweeted about him. So every time Ronnie criticised Scott McTominay, there was once Ronnie said, like, he said, I don't care if McTominay scores a brace, right? I don't think he's right for us or whatever, or right for the system, whatever it was. And within 5 minutes, McTominay had scored 2 goals.
It was Brentford at home.
So it looked like he said it after that brace. It looked mental.
Yeah, it was mental, because
like, he looks like some guys just got a brace, so when you're in the game and you're criticising him, like, are you insane?
That was unbelievable, because people don't look at the time of when you tweet it. They just see it whenever they see it.
Yeah. But I'm starting to think this is Project 2028 right here. This is how United win the league title. Just sign McTominay about you tweet shit about him.
Tweet constantly about how he ain't good enough, and he'll carry us.
I can't believe that happened. That was the Brentford
insane
game when he came on and scored 2 in 5 minutes to turn the game around.
Literally, like, press send, there's a goal. Oh, there's another one.
I tweeted when he was on the bench.
I'd have deleted that. You're a better man than I am, because you were just,
that's integrity, to be fair.
You stuck with it, man. Do you know what I mean? Mark, welcome to the academy. Thanks for joining. DV says, should we push some of our players for a Saudi deal? We are going to get into some of the potential outgoings in the summer. One suggestion, and I'll call it a suggestion at the minute, because I don't know how true it is, and there isn't anything really concrete. It seems more rumour driven than actual anyone where I can go, okay, Mark or Ornstein or anyone saying this, is maybe someone like Onana going to Saudi, which has been mooted. I don't know. I mean, it's difficult to say in it with the goalkeeper where Ruben Amorim is with him, because we haven't really got any other options in a minute. If Bayindir was fit and Bayindir was getting games, you might go, well, he obviously doesn't fancy Onana, but Bayindir isn't fit. Onana is basically only goalkeeper you can go with. You can't really throw one of the kids in. So it's difficult to see where Amorim's head is with Onana. Plus, you've got the issue. There's other areas he needs strengthening as well.
Yeah, I don't think it's a massive priority. I have been sort of steered away from that stuff around him and Saudi today.
You feel like it's not?
It feels like, I've been basically gently pushed away from that.
Okay.
So I don't know. Where was it originally reported?
Well, I think we saw it in the evening news, but it's one of those where it's been reported and it's like there's a trail of, you know.
So I saw some speculation about he changed his agent or something along those lines, and the agent that he's gone to is someone that specialises in Saudi transfers. So then he thought, that sometimes is an indicator that there's something in the works. You know, often players will change agents before they get a big move. So look, you can read too much into these things. At the minute, I'm told that it's not one to be paying too much attention to. It's funny you say that I haven't been doing any work. It's kind of true. he's been busy, right? Exactly.
It's funny you say on a live podcast I don't work very hard, Jay.
When I'm just delivering the goods right now. But no. Also, I actually have an article coming out tomorrow on Onana. That,
there we go, a little sneaky peek.
A sneak preview that kind of looks into. I mean, what have you noticed about Onana recently? I'll see if this was a thing, because this was my idea. And I thought it was a thing, and I'm not sure if other fans have been.
What have you been? I'm sure this won't be your article. I think his last few games he's been better.
Yeah,
I think he has been performing much better. He seems to have sort of regained his mojo a little bit. Tactically, Ronnie will tell you what's different.
Well,
Are we talking?
The only thing that,
I don't know why I'm testing you, and I could just tell you. But
it's not. I like this. You turn the tables here. Me having a little thing about you not doing anything. So you go, right then, clever clocks.
See what I've noticed last few games.
Here we go. Ronnie's the guy for this.
I feel like he's kicked the ball out of play a lot more often.
You know what?
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I knew Ronnie wouldn't let me down.
He's playing a lot more long balls, right? I've noticed. I spotted it. And I just thought, why this was? He was supposed to come and he was supposed to revolutionise United's playing out the back, getting up the pitch. And the last few games, he's just been. Do you remember the Arsenal game? There was goal kick after goal kick was going along to the point where the Arsenal fans were doing that non-league.
That's a good. I forgot about that. That's a good point.
So I looked into it, and I think it is basically, without giving too much away, because I want you to actually read it tomorrow.
Well, we will put a link in the description. Go and check Mark's work out on the Athletic. There is a lot there.
But yeah, it's like an actual directive from the coaching staff that they want him playing these longer balls.
Do you think that's working? Do you think that's a good tactic? I know you're allowed to question the coaching staff. We're allowed to do that on it. It's not MUTV. Do you think that is a good tactic, one that's going to pay dividends? Because I know it's on the early doors.
Because I think from one perspective, why you might want to do it is because if you look at some of the players that they're in that defence at the minute, they aren't all the most comfortable in terms of taking the ball off the goalkeeper and playing out from the back. And I think United have had a lot of problems with that this season, where they haven't really been able to move the ball up the pitch and create chances. At the same time, how many times have you seen that ball go over the top recently and it's going into Højlund and he's grappling with the centre half, or Xerxes not winning it even though he's 6'4". So it feels like they're almost not suited to doing one or the other, and you're caught between two stools. And I think at the minute it's almost more about we don't want to take any unnecessary risk that might mean that we give the ball away really close to the goal, so let's just belt it up the pitch.
Has that gotten worse since Martinez's injury as well?
I think that's got to be a factor in it, right? Because he's so important in terms of actually getting the ball off the playing it up through the pitch, and he's the best defender that they've got at playing out from the back, right? So I think that's exacerbated it. It has changed since then. If you look at the data, it's all there, laid out. He's just launching it every time.
Could have done with Luke Shaw as well, maybe, but he just never.
It's so devastating that injury to Martinez, man. honestly, it really is. But for a multitude of reasons, the one you spoke about, him playing out from the back, he's so good on the ball.
And he was like,
he's one of the reasons as well. There's others.
He was playing really well just before it happened.
He was even scoring.
Creating
and scoring. Honestly, I think he's still like third in the amount of away goals scored for us in the Premier League this season. It's just been it was, and also I like his leadership skills. The fact that he's always got that about him as well. I think that has been something that's been missing from the Manchester United team.
Did anyone ever figure out what that celebration was about at Fulham, by the way? When he was doing all this stuff? Wasn't it? Like big fish, little fish, cardboard box.
There's probably something, I don't know, something we're not privy to in it in the change rooms.
Sounds like it's my job to find out.
That could be the big scoop for the next one. Got the Onana one and then revealed.
He could have just been
exclusive.
In the change room. If I score, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
But to be fair, would a centre-half like Lisandro Martinez, who doesn't really score goals, would he have really said, my next goal's...
Can you have a celebration in the bag when you're a centre-half?
Really? You can't really, can you?
It seems a bit much, doesn't it?
I think it probably was a few of them that I might have done it if anyone scores.
Might have just been spur of the moment. He might not know.
I mean, it looks spur of the moment, I'm totally honest.
They might have been going,
yeah, no idea.
Lisa, what was that? And he's like, I don't even know,
Talk about defenders that shouldn't have really a celebration that's specific to them.
Yeah.
What about Diogo Dalot?
Dalot's got like 8, hasn't he? He's got that. But I love it. Was it Forest away when he did 3 at once?
Just got him all
he
off.
He did that. He's like...
all for one goal. Just made sure. He's had them all saved.
Do you know what, right? You've got a lot of IDs, you've got to test them out. You're not got many time to do it.
Your jinx with McTominay's the same with mine with Dalot, Because when I was at the game the other day, it was at Sociedad. And I said to my mate, I was like, bro, this guy's fallen off a cliff this season. What's going on with Dalot, man? And the next thing you know, he's banging in that. And the funny thing is, my mate went, nah, I rate him. I said, I don't not rate him. I just think he's having a bit of a stinker this season. I was like, yeah, there you go. Shut up.
I remember last time I was on it, I think I said something like, United need to sign more players like Diogo Dalot. And I could see the words coming out my mouth and immediately wanted to put back in.
No, because
I see what you mean.
Ronnie was part of the Dalot fan club last season, and I get it.
Right.
And I like Dalot. I just want to put out there. I just felt that, when sometimes you get to a certain point in the season and you there's 15 games in and you go, he's not had a good game for all season almost.
Doesn't get
what's
rest.
going on?
I think
what is up with him? And I was like, are you right? I think he's played more minutes than anyone, including Bruno,
out of position,
which is ridiculous. Settled team. Let's see. Do you know what I mean? Let's see how he gets on. But I just thought he hadn't lived up to the standards of last season.
I don't want to be harsh on Dalot, but I think
I like Dalot as well.
I think Dalot's one of those players, that almost needs to play in flow state to play well. I think when he starts having to
think too much.
His thinking's not his strong point.
He's so mad as well, Dalot. I don't know. He says that. Thinking. If you can say thinking out of his game.
This way possible.
I don't know. It's like the Arsenal game.
You can tell he's not
the
sharpest
No, you gather that. But he's a friend of the channel. He's a good guy. But there's the Arsenal game, was it towards the end where he did one cross? Well, it wasn't. I don't know what he did. He just kicked it into Rowe's head. Right. And I was screaming, why has he done late on it? And then a minute later, he's just a mint pass, mint cross, and you think,
are you part of the Dalot fan club?
I'm agnostic. I know that's not. You can't.
Do you know what? I feel that.
But I feel last season, it was unanimously everyone's player of the season, right? Yeah. I think it was weird because it was so bad, and this one's been even worse.
I chose I might have chose Kobbie just because
there might have been a curse behind it.
Because I know he was only started in November, but
I remember thinking that it shouldn't be unanimously Dalot. But I remember we had on our call at work the question went up for someone to write the piece about the player of the season. That everyone was like Dalot, and I was like, okay, so.
He was certainly over the course of the season probably the most consistent.
Yeah.
With football, unfortunately, you know how it is, especially with the fickleness of fans. You're only as good as your last game, and it's mad how he was. People were saying he's United fans were saying he was better than Trent and one of the best right backs in the league last season. Then now, look how quickly that's changed.
I did that on the overlap.
You said that.
The next overlap. I know. They said to me, it was after the 4-3, right? So the giddiness in me is the 4-3 against Liverpool is off the scale, right? I feel like I'm untouchable. Plus, I never do the overlap, right? Maka does it, and if he's not about, Joe does it. But they were both away. So I was like, third choice.
Okay.
Like I was like, because
I know that feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like.
These are two in front. Is it? I feel like
You are not behind Lonnie Whitwell and Carl Anker on this channel.
On the overlap, I am.
You presenting? Mate,
I was presenting, yeah.
You went from barely ever being on it to presenting. I remember telling Laurie about that. And he was like saying, Mark, Chris is doing well for himself. He was presenting the overlap. He went, what? I was like, have you not seen him? He's presenting the overlap. He's like,
they had a ginger quota they had to fill.
Mate, no, you did well, man. I mean, I was just there to sit there.
DI.
Yeah, DI. we got enough gingers in here, mate. Get Critchley on the phone. Put him at the front. Yeah, because I was there after the 4-3, so I was mega giddy. And to do that, and also, I hate combined 11s, right? I hate that.
Yeah, it's mad.
Like, it's so trash. We're going to talk about this in a minute. But, like, it's just pointless. It doesn't mean anything. It's not scientific, and it's not like that's a fact. It's just your opinion, innit? So they were like it was like it was like which position? So you got like, who'd you have at goalkeeper? United, Liverpool. So goalkeeper, I think I might have said Alisson, to be fair, right?
Yeah.
And then it was like
you would, to be fair.
Yeah. Then they were going through. I think the only ones I put in from Liverpool like Alisson, Van Dijk, and Salah. That was it, right? Okay. So when it got to like right back and it was Trent or Dalot, I said Dalot, right? So I was like Dalot. And they were like, really?
See, that's what happens in all this season.
I was like, Trent Alexander-Arnold can't defend, right? Anyway, they put that as a social clip.
A Dalot can't cross, but still.
And I was, exactly. I ignored that bit. And my phone was going mad. And I was on all the comments, like, this guy's not well, this guy's mentally ill, the typical man, hammering me.
And they clip you up straight away on Twitter, and you just know, it's
that's gold. Like, if you're going to deliver that from,
but I said it was, I didn't care. I was like, do you know what I mean? It was like, I wasn't that bothered, but that was one that came back to haunt me a little bit.
They definitely went Antony or Salah, and you're like, Antony.
I don't know. I can't remember what he did.
He scored, to be fair.
They did.
4-3, hadn't
I think they tried to put. Yeah. I think at first they put Marcus against Salah. I can't remember when they did it, and I was like, that ain't right.
Okay, yeah,
and then they changed it, and then it was like, and then they did like
Diaz, Rashford.
Yeah, and then it was. I was like, I can't remember what he did, but it ended up with like 3 Liverpool players. I even admitted, I said, you'd think we were top of the league the way I've just done that. But he done that. Get involved in the chat in the comments. Let us know if you've got any questions for Mark. What you think? Miles says Dalot works hard. It's available all the time and has the right mentality. He's just been played to the point where his best is 75% of what he can do or what he can be. Sorry. Ross Murphy also says Dalot's a good rotational fullback, but he's not for me week in, week out, our starter. Just on a couple before we move on, I just want to talk about some more outgoings, because some of the players, look at Christian Eriksen, Victor Lindelof, Johnny Evans, Tom Heaton, for example, who are coming to the end of a contract or maybe even potentially the end of the career in the case of Johnny Evans. Yep. You're not getting any money for them. The big sort of hitters, money-wise, that we know are going or we expect to go are probably Marcus Rashford.
Yeah.
Do you think? Yeah, maybe. Do you see that one happening, Marcus? Because I think with Rashford, it's weird. I think he's done okay at Villa.
Yes,
I'll be honest with you. I don't think he's quite done as well as some people are making out.
I agree.
I think there's this narrative that's been born that like he's gone to Villa and he's been unbelievable. He's the best Marcus we've ever seen. He's like, and I'm like, well, he's not.
The Villa
really.
fans have been happy with him.
No, I'm not saying he's not.
But you're not saying he's playing badly.
I am not saying he's playing badly at Aston Villa. He isn't. I just don't quite buy into this idea. He's been amazing for them. I think he's been good, right? I think part of the issue was he wasn't perceived, at least, being good at United for a little while. But I think he's done all right at Villa. I still feel like there's an element of that could go either way. I still feel, because there's a big chunk of the season left, if he carries on the way he has been, I think they'll probably be happy enough with him to buy him for 40 million, which I think is the price.
Yep.
However, if he has a barren spell or there's questions around him in training or whatever, I could see the wheels coming off.
He hasn't been starting every game as well at the same time. He's been coming off the bench a lot of substitute appearances. I think it's been weird being a United journalist and watching Marcus Rashford play for somebody else, essentially, because it's almost like you step away from this narrative that surrounds Marcus Rashford as a footballer, as a human being, and you see it like imported onto another club. And with England even as well, starting the other night, and it's all about, it's exactly like you're saying, it's like he's resurgent, look at him, he's back. And I remember watching, it was like the first game in the FA Cup, they were playing Spurs, I think.
They were, you're right.
And it was like, as soon as he came on, anything he did, it was like hyper-analysed and under the microscope, and it was like, it's almost like people were willing to say that he's completely trying to...
Do you know what it is? He nutmegged Pedro Porro on it, and it was like, he's back.
Do you know what it is? You know what it is?
Go on.
It's just, I feel like it's the media and just the general desperation for like United as like an institution just to be disparaged in a way of like, it's United's fault. The club's just going a bit of a nightmare. It's a graveyard, and so just anyone that leaves or anyone that's not playing at the club, they're just going to kind of say, look, it's not the player, the club's just a mess.
I hear that. At the same time, like, I have to kind of stick up for the media.
Yeah.
So
when I said media, I was like,
it's cool. I think it's like the media is always after a narrative. It's always after a story, right? And you're right, that in itself was a story, and it was a thing for a few weeks after that January window, wasn't it? That all these United players were going away and playing really well, and it was like they're all freed up from the shackles of United. It's just something to latch onto, and people like a turnaround, a career arc, a journey, and that's what they see with Rashford. And I think, look, if you look at his performances, he's definitely playing pretty good. I think he was playing all right until it all kicked off with Amorim as well. He scored 2 against Everton.
So, yeah,
that was his last. No, it was his last Premier League game before Pilsen, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think the thing, like I say right at the start of the answer, he hasn't been starting a lot of games, and that's the question mark for me over whether Villa would look to try and make something permanent. It's just, is he such a key integral part of this team at the minute that?
Because he's on big money, innit? Is it like 300k a week, something like that?
I have my doubts about Villa agreeing to that. Maybe see where they end if they end up qualifying for the Champions League or Europe. But I think if it's an option, I think there's every chance that they don't agree to that, because they might see the possibility of going out and buying a winger for a similar amount on less wages, or even just a less transfer budget, who can probably offer them the same, or someone that probably has resale value, that's a little bit younger, a bit more perspective than just signing a Rashford at 28 on big.
Well, it's a signing to get them in the Champions League now, right? And to try and win the Champions League, right? And that's, you can see the short-term benefits to that. Does it have long-term benefits? I think that depends on how well it goes. And you'd say at the minute it's going well, but is it a surefire hit? I don't know.
No, I'm completely with you on that. Get involved in the chat in the comments. Let us know what you think. Another player, sort of one extreme to the other. Well, no, actually, let's stick on the ones that are doing well, or at least perceived to do well. Antony's doing well at Real Betis.
Yeah, last time I checked.
Yeah, I know.
You only hear anything when he scored. If there's no, that's what I mean.
Didn't he get sent off
He did get sent off, but even despite, I mean, sometimes you can get sent off and be still having a good, like, Dogu got sent off, and I think he's done well.
Straight. That was the best 45 minutes of any player who'd got sent off and scored a horrific own goal at the same time.
That was
like, he's done all right here.
People think you're insane when you say, like, Dogu's done well, when he scored an own goal and got sent off.
In 45 minutes.
Yeah, don't worry about that. Forget that. He's been mint. I mean, I've seen a few highlights of him. I've not been sitting down watching Real Betis games, but he's been scoring, like you say, Ronnie. He's been getting player of the match.
Yeah.
He's been getting assists. You'd think there's talk of him going for 25 million, which isn't too extortionate. I don't think his wages are that. I mean, they're probably quite big for Real Betis, but
they are.
They're not silly money. And even, I don't know what the situation is there. If he doesn't go to Betis, there was talk of them extending, wasn't there?
Yeah.
His loan deal for another year and eating up more of his wages. I don't know if that's going to work for United, but you can see him going out the door, and maybe there's a deal there. A player that's been in the news this morning, I think your colleague David Ornstein tweeted it and everyone else has followed suit, was Jadon Sancho, because we knew that there was a sort of penalty, if you can call it that, for Chelsea not to sign Sancho for the 25 million that was agreed at the end of the season, and the penalty is 5 million. So there's sort of the question's being asked: is it actually worth it for Chelsea to pay that 5 million not to keep him, because his form has just fallen off a cliff? I think he's got 1 assist in his last 14 Premier League games, I think, and I think in Europe he's not, or in Europe in the Cup he's not really done much either. It's not going well for Jadon Sancho at Chelsea at all. I mean, do you think there is a possibility he ends up back at Old Trafford this summer?
I think there's a possibility. Look, it's it's not much of an obligation, is it, if they can just send him straight back? Sorry?
For 5 million.
5 million. 5 million.
So it's 25 to keep him, I think, and 5 million to say no thanks.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know, and you'll know more about this. Does that harm them in any way, their reputation or anything? If they do pay the 5 million to send him back, a club's going to look at that and go, not doing business with them, or does it not matter?
And I also look at it, and people will just instantly see that statement and think, oh, that's a shoo-in. Instead of paying 25 million, just pay the fine of 5 million. But it's not really an equivalent, because when you pay the 25 million, you're actually getting a footballer and you're playing. Whereas just giving 5 million, it's just basically you going in your pocket.
Yeah, you're not getting anything out of that.
I'm not getting
whatsoever.
Anything out of it. So it's not an equivalent.
It's a great point, and I think this is something that's slightly been missed in, because this has been a story for about a week now when it first kind of came out that there was a clause. I mean, there's a piece, you write, David Ornstein reported yesterday on Our Place, 5 million. There was a piece by our Chelsea writers, Liam Toomey and Simon Johnson as well. And the thrust of that piece was essentially that there's no real reason at the minute why Chelsea wouldn't sign him. You know, I know he's not playing brilliantly, but the sense hasn't been that they're moving in a direction where they are going to send him back. And I think as well, this comes from Ronaldo's point there, Chelsea operate in a very different way from a lot of other football clubs when it comes to signing players. It doesn't really matter if you've got a place in the starting 11 or in the squad. You're seen as almost like an asset that is an investment. And I think, you know, Sancho hasn't played great this season. It was only a year ago that he was in Champions League finals, semi-finals, and we were talking about him as, you know, has he kind of refound whatever potential and ability that he has. If you're getting a footballer of that level for 25 million, if you're Todd Bowley or you know, the other guys at Chelsea, I forget the names now, but they'll be looking at that and thinking that might still be a pretty sound investment that you could still flip somewhere else. I don't think you can look at it as like a typical traditional transfer, really, because it's quite a unique situation that Sancho's in.
Glenn F says it's a big difference, 20 million quid. It is. It's just like Mark and Ronnie have said, at least you're getting something for it. Akash K says, does Critch think most of our sales will go towards paying down debt rather than adequate replacements?
No, because I don't. Well, it depends what debt we're talking about.
There's so much debt to go around at Manchester United at the minute.
So like I said,
debt for everyone.
Yeah, they basically took 200 million out on the credit card last summer in order to make the transfers. That doesn't need paying off, but if you want that ability to do that again, you need to pay it down. I would think that the priority would be players, though, because clearly the squad needs a lot of work. There's a rebuilding job to do. I just think that, they might pay off a bit of that credit card debt, if you like, but there's a real big, there's problems all over issues that they need to do, and they need to they need to fix it to suit Amorim, don't they? So I think that'll be a big priority, and they might pay off a bit of that debt. They won't pay off any of the Glazer debt. You can forget about that.
It's just mad when you're United talking like it's like me back trying to balance my budget. Yeah, I mean, I've got to pay off a bit of this credit card, and I've got a bit of money left over there. How much I'm going to pay off? I don't know. Actually, I'll be all right for that. I'll just make a minimum payment. Manchester United are moving like that. It's crazy. We've spoken about players that we think can go and players getting released. We haven't spoken about players that perhaps in an ideal world you wouldn't want to sell. There's a couple I'll mention quickly before we move on.
Yeah.
Garnacho. Had a little bit of a resurgence recently, Garnacho. He seems to, be starting regularly. He's doing quite well. Seems to, I wouldn't say back to his best by any stretch of the imagination, but certainly more positive than he's been previously this season. Chelsea, funnily enough, and Napoli were linked with him, weren't they, in the summer? In January, I think it was. Do you think there could be anything happening there, or do you think United will try and keep hold of him?
I think that the situation as it was in January hasn't really changed.
Yeah.
It's the sense that I get. The idea that they weren't actively looking to get rid of either Garnacho or Mainoo, but at the same time that they would listen to offers if they were going to come in. I think that's, why would that have changed since? The only thing that's really happened since then is that they signed a player for £30 million and they signed another for £1.5 million, right? And so they still need to almost like not balance the books, but they've only spent more money since then. And the whole thing about Garnacho and Mainoo was that, these are the two players within the squad that might actually retain some like resale value, right? That we can actually make, people will pay good money for, and we can reinvest that into the squad. So that situation hasn't changed, and I take on board the points about Garnacho, starting more. I think he's got used to Amorim's demands, and you can see the way that Amorim speaks about him now. He's very complimentary about his performances and how he's adapting to the system. I just wonder whether we get to a situation, coming right back to the top of the show even, if you're in a position where you need to sell to buy and you're prioritising certain positions in the squad, you're going to look who's going to generate the most value, and it's still the case that Garnacho is one of them. Yeah,
I still think I would be in agreement with that type of outlook, where if there's a big enough and good enough transfer that comes in for someone like Garnacho, I don't think United are in a position to anyway, but I don't think United should scoff at it.
Yeah.
I think it's one of them where people have said resurgence. I think he's played better, but a lot of things that I think a lot of United players recently have sometimes have con fans in a way where sometimes you set the bar so low for yourself that any sort of like steady improvement in performance gets lauded as like he's back and he told you he's going to be the next CR7 and all these like crazy like hyperbolic statements about players, and then before you know it they flip on the other way. I think he's still got a long way to go. I think one thing I do like about Garnacho is I think he does have a good mentality, and the belief that he does have himself, some people might see as overconfidence at times, but I feel like it will stand him in good stead in his football career, because for one, when he was getting a lot of criticism, when he played, he didn't seem to like try things less. He seemed to.
No, he wants the ball.
He always plays in the same way.
I always want a player like that, United.
Yeah.
So want the ball and try and make things happen.
Yeah.
Run at the defender, try and create something, and he does that. You're right, Ronnie. And you can question his final products and what he does with the ball when he's got it, or whatever, in terms of his delivery or his lack of it. Usually trying to get his shot off, whatever. But at the very least, tries to make things happen. And there's times when we've had players in the past who've got the ball and just gone backwards with it, or just sort of go into the shell. So listen, I like Garnacho, and
I think he's going to be a top player as well. I understand like the comparisons with Ronaldo and stuff are just a bit mad, but I remember coming on the show just around the time when it was kind of kicking off with him and saying like this isn't the type of player that United used to willingly get rid of, right?
No.
If they had him, they would hold him, see him reach his like ultimate potential, and then it would be like, okay, Madrid, Barcelona might come calling and you might lose him, but he is of that kind of, I don't want to say he's of that level, but just in terms of like, you can see he shoots all the time, right? When he's on the pitch, he's United's biggest goal threat. He's the one that makes things happen. And I think we've actually seen that the last few weeks, that when he was out of the team and he's come on and he's come off the bench, he's made an impact on games. And I don't know if you can really lose that at the minute, because it's not really coming from anywhere else within the squad. So I'd still want to see him stay, to be honest. But I think the financial kind of realities of it might mean that ultimately he goes, because
he is untapped and he's a good. I think he's a really good talent. I just always have been someone that's kind of like tried to provide balance. I think like some United fans have taken the like plaudits towards him a little bit too far, and I think sometimes I don't know if it looks like he's heard a bit of that, and that might have become a bit of a problem. But I think maybe the
socials quite a lot.
Maybe the humbleness of
you don't need
that he's received the past, like brought down to earth a little bit the past 6 months. That could probably be better for him going in the future. But I do think he's a good talent. I just was someone that didn't necessarily agree with probably he's going to be like this world class talent. I don't think I've quite seen that yet. I could be wrong. I'd be happy to be wrong. But one thing I do think he is probably looks like our most threatening player in forward areas, and he starts week in, week out. But then another element of that is, if Garnacho doesn't start currently, like who else can start in those positions? Yeah, a lot of the players that have started in the forward areas since January have had to basically start by default, because United have no attackers in the squad, very limited, and you've got Mount injured, and then you've got Ahmad injured, and then you've got Rashford and Antony basically on loan. You just literally the three attackers that we've started are basically the only attackers that we have.
That's true.
Just quickly.
Yeah.
Kobbie. Do you think there could be anything there? I feel like with Mainoo, because he's been injured, and because there's these reports that he wants quite a lot of money for a contract and stuff, which Lloyd Whitwell, I think, pushed back on slightly. I think there's sort of, the narrative have shifted a little bit, where people are going, well, it's not the end of the world if he goes. Where I think 6 months ago, people would have been like, are you insane? We are not selling
that up. Like
a little bit in the comments we see.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not one of them.
No,
I would be devastated and furious if we sold Kobbie Mainoo. It amazes me, a kid who was 18 when he made his debut in November 2023 at Goodison, ends up getting player of the match in the FA Cup final against the likes of De Bruyne and Rodri, scores the decisive goal, ends up in the Euros final, and now in March the following year we're saying, if he goes, it's not the end of the world. Well, I think it is, personally. I think we should be doing everything to keep players like Kobbie Mainoo. I think we're lucky to have him. But I do notice a few people going,
It's mad, isn't it? I think it's similar with Garnacho as well, in that you get this a lot with young players, in that when they break through, there's this sudden impact and everyone's very excited usually, and it's understandable. But then it's almost like once you're in the team, it's like you're judged like you've been in the team for 3 or 4 years and you're almost like developed.
100%.
And like, with Kobbie, I think that, you know, he's 19? I can't.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure he is. Unless
but I was watching him. I was at Lee Sports Village watching him play against Copenhagen like 18 months ago, right?
Yeah, he's 19.
And I know that was still at that time he was still supposed to be in the first team, and it was only because he had the injury on pre-season that he wasn't, and he made his breakthrough with the Everton game a few weeks later. But he's still such a young player. Garnacho too. For them to be kind of judged at the levels of like senior pros within this team, and yet they're still, when they're fit, they're still playing a shed load of the minutes. Garnacho had like 39 starts consecutive last season.
Unbelievable.
Insane.
For a player, 20?
It's a lot of responsibility.
He's already played like over 130 games for United.
Yeah. And I get, like, with the academy stuff at the minute, like, there's a lot of the 18s are doing brilliantly and people want to see Cheeto come through and all that. It's already very reliant on some seriously young players who are in a very difficult situation.
You're going to end up with 12-year-olds playing. It's like keeps moving, doesn't it? It's like, and I'd be guilty of it myself, saying give Cheeto more minutes or whatever, or I'd like to see him get off the bench a bit more. I get it, so I don't want to be too hypocritical, but you do have to sort of remember that these are children.
But I guess what I'm saying is that like those lads will have started that journey maybe like 18 months ago, or Garnacho maybe 2 years ago. That they've already come to a point where it's like he's not good enough, get rid of him, I wouldn't mind seeing him go. And that's an incredibly quick turnaround for somebody who's still
careful with that as well.
Couldn't even drink in the USA, right?
Yeah, some of these players as well, like just not every player is sort of done at 20. You know, some players like get to 22, 23, and then it's most players do. Then they start taking it to another level, and there's every reason to believe
do you know what? I would actually fight back on that. I don't think most do. I feel like the players that ascend when they get older, they're the ones that obviously get highlighted because they become class players and they become in the spotlight. I think there are a lot of players that break in at 20, 21 and they pretty much stay around the same level and don't usually hit the heights that you think they might do. I feel like it doesn't. I feel like people always think people always ascend and get better. And
not always,
I don't think
not a lot of them do. I think for me, Kobbie Mainoo has another level to go, 100%. I don't think we're looking at the best version of Kobbie Mainoo right now. I don't believe that at all. I think he came into that team at 18 years old, and for a culmination of things, A, the team wasn't very good. B, he was like a breath of fresh air. You've got this youngster come through the academy, Stockport lad, doing really well, different as well on the ball and stuff, scoring some important goals, the winner at Wolves, the banger against the Scousers, obviously FA Cup final. And then it's all of a sudden like, all right, that's it now. That's his level. So when he's dropped down a little bit, this is almost like he's in decline. I think Kobbie Mainoo, 19 years old, I 100% think he's got another level to go to.
I think I was being devil's advocate.
Attackers sometimes, but also, like Rashford when he burst onto the scene, 8 goals in 18 games, whatever it is, in that first season, the winner at the Etihad, the brace against Arsenal, the brace against Midtjylland. But I still think he was better a few years down the line. I think his game progressed. It's just sometimes you have that initial sort of burst onto the scene where they go, wow, this is amazing, and then they might have a little lull, they plateau a little bit, but then as they get physically stronger.
Someone might have said that about Januzaj.
Someone
might have said that about Makeda.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? But it's like,
to be fair, I think those players, especially Makeda, and I like Kiko Makeda, but man, Robert's played the best football of his career. But Makeda, was what? It was 4 or 5 games, wasn't it, really? It was the Villa game, the Sunderland game, 1 or 2 others.
Makeda's a goal, though. You know what I mean? Like, that's it. It's just a goal. And like, I think even if you probably asked Federico Makeda, I don't want to speak for him.
No, we've had him on the channel. We've had him on.
All right, okay.
So he had a lot of low moves after that, and he went through a horrible period of like just not scoring.
Yeah.
I think he went to, I can't remember. I think he was at Sampdoria or somewhere. Forgive me, I can't remember. He went to a few different clubs where it didn't happen. But listen, if you look at Nicky Butt at 19, he was much better when he was older. If you look at Scholes when he was 19, he was much better.
I'm sure Makeda would say he was a better player at 24 than he was when he scored that goal against Villa.
Exactly.
The point, like, he was probably never at United level.
That's my point. I think particularly with Garnacho and Mainoo, I still think they've got another. Sampdoria was Sampdoria. He didn't score, did he, in Serie A? I remember he went on loan and just couldn't score.
I think you're right, they do, but it's just about being not sure where the ceiling is. But I think
I get you.
I think there is.
For me, Mainoo is the main one I'm on about.
I think Mainoo, more Garnacho, because you know what Garnacho is.
I don't like
what I was going to say back to him.
Can't get better.
What I was going to say back to him, I didn't say like he can't get better.
No.
But it's more like, I think the criticism that Garnacho's received for his age is, sometimes when you say an age of a player, you got to factor in the amount of games that they've played.
Yeah.
As I've said, he has played 130 games for Manchester United, which is a lot. And so what people are doing when they are judging Garnacho is, obviously they do factor in his age a little bit, but they'll say, is Garnacho a better player after his 15th game as he is now? And a lot of people are arguing that they don't think they've seen as much improvement over about 70, 80 games in Garnacho's game as they would like to.
Yeah,
I think that's the argument you've made, because I feel like someone like Modric,
when I look at Garnacho, his best performance, I don't know, it was only a cameo almost, but that game against City, Old Trafford, he was unreal. You know, the goal that when people going, oh, it shouldn't have been a goal because Rashford and Bruno sort of conspired to put Edison off or whatever the hell it was. People just ignored the fact Garnacho came on and just tore City apart for 20 minutes, 15 minutes. It was unreal.
And also throughout that season, he was really good just coming off the bench in those situations. And
I get where you're coming from.
I get it. I just think with any player, almost like the development and the progression is never linear. It's never a straight line going upwards, is it? And you're going to get points where they peak and trough. And look at like someone like Phil Foden right now. I mean, he's not having a great season at all. But he's like 24 now or something like that.
PFA Player of the Year last year.
Exactly.
Foden's past it all, man. Just quickly before we go, Wally of the Week. It's what it says on the tin. I think you've been here before. Wally of the Week, someone who's done our heads in a bit.
I'm going to cheat. I'm going to say Stunt Peg for omitting Ronaldo from the all-time 11.
Do you know what, right? I'm going to push back on that slightly.
Here we go.
I don't blame Stunt Peg. Sky get her on. She's 24. They ask her to give a Premier League team of all time or whatever. And then her and Boovy, I think it was, have this debate. I mean, even Boovy's 32, so he would have been, 2 when the Premier League started, right. or no, I don't think he was. But I was
32. He wouldn't. No, he wouldn't.
No, I was at 92. The Premier League started. Was that 33 years ago? So he wouldn't have been born yet when the Premier League started. So I get it. If you're asked to go on Sky and give your opinion, I don't blame these people for giving it. I just think if you're going to have these debates, then it's a bit difficult to have a debate about the Premier League team when you were either not born when the Premier League started, or in Stunt Peg's case, I think she was. I think people were saying she was commenting on Ronaldo. She was like 7 when he was banging in the goals and coming second in the Ballon d'Or. So I always think that, I blame Sky.
It's like me. I'm 26 and I can only literally remember back half of the 2006-07 season, and the one that I can fully remember is the best season he had at United, which is the one that got 07-08 Champions League final. So Moscow.
I think Sky for me. Asking people who are very young or young to come up with opinions and then throwing them under the bus.
2007, 2008 is like a black hole for me because I was like just getting drunk all the time.
Scuba diving.
Yeah, scuba diving.
Have you got a Wally of the Week?
Can I say Laurie Whitwell just to 5 shots at him?
Yes! Let's have a bit of athletic beef. Hey, we'll clip that up and we'll send it. We'll show it Laurie next time he's on. Here's what Mark Critchley had to say about you, Laurie. He's only jealous because you've been presenting the overlap. He's never had that. Mark, always a pleasure having you on the channel, bro. We're going to have him on again soon as well. Make sure you check out his work in The Athletic. You know where to find Ronaldo Brown. That's been Mark Critchley from The Athletic. That's been Ronaldo Brown. I've been Jay. This has been the Paddock Podcast. Thanks for watching.